Everyone talks about hiring from the Philippines, but nobody shows you the real people. Today, I'm giving you behind the scenes of the actual team that runs my 7-figure Amazon business. I started hiring from the Philippines in 2021 after running the business solo for many years, and honestly, it changed everything for me. Now, I help other e-commerce entrepreneurs do the same thing with my company, Talented. This week, I hop on with my two top performers, Christelle and Danielle. They're the ones who have allowed me to scale the business as well as my time. I even got to meet them this summer in the Philippines. We talk about their journey, what makes us different than other jobs they've had, and why hiring overseas sucks. So let's jump in with the first one, Christelle.
I'm Christelle Nicole de los Reyes, and I've been with Zach for almost 3 years now. I am from Subic, Zambales,
The wonderful
pretty
country
far from the
of?
city. Philippines, of course.
Okay.
So my role in the team is I am the product sourcing specialist, and I'm also the team captain. My main role is, of course, finding products for the business. Also, as a team captain, I oversee everyone's collective efforts, and I make sure that we're all working on the same goals in the company or the team.
What were you doing before I hired you?
So first off, I worked as a customer service for an insurance company in America, and it only lasted for like 8 months. It's not really the role that I wanted, but to be honest, I got the job so I could like save money for a laptop because I had the freelancing as my goal from the start. So I need a stepping stone. I need a job so I can get a laptop. And then when I finally saved up for it, I quit my job after 8 months,
Hmm.
and then I actually had two clients before you. I don't know if I've said it
No,
before.
I did not know that. Was that on Upwork?
Yeah, on Upwork, I had two clients before. The first one lasted, I think, just a month, and then the second one just lasted for like 2 weeks. So it's hard because the job wasn't really secure. And then my first client, she was my first client, and I was her first virtual assistant. So we were both like testing the waters at first. Like
Hmm.
she wasn't sure what she wanted to sell on Amazon, and I wasn't sure what products should I find for her. 'Cause she was a new seller, so we were both like figuring things out on the way. But
That's
then,
the worst
uh,
combo.
yeah,
If she doesn't have
'cause-
anything.
yeah, it is. Because like, how am I gonna know what I'm gonna do if you don't know what you want to do with your business? And then the second client that I had never really gave me like any feedbacks at all, like any criticism and stuff. They would just always approve my Google sheet, but I never really know what they think about the product. Like, how good is it? Like,
Hmm.
what was your basis on how you think of a product that's good? And then January, oh no, February, and then on February, I came across your job posting on Upwork. At first, I was really hesitant to reply, or to apply. Like
What?
I've been, I've
Why?
been, I thought about it for like 2 days before I sent my
Wha-
application. Yes,
What?
you want to know why? Because I didn't want to source sneakers. because because I thought it was gonna be hard. Like, why is this guy only selling sneakers? Like, it's
You
a
thought about it
two-day
for
tour.
2 days?
Yeah,
What
for
were you
2 days.
doing?
I don't know. I was just going back and forth on the job posting. I was reading it. Like, can I really do it? Can I
Like
find
you had it
sneakers?
bookmarked?
Yeah, I had it bookmarked, and then I check it every day. And then I try to see if you're interviewing new applicants.
Wow.
You never
That's
knew
crazy.
that. I never told you that.
No, that is crazy.
Yeah.
What do you remember from the first time we met? What was your first impression of me?
I was actually skeptical to you at first. Like, you were so young. I feel like you're young to be selling on Amazon. So I thought, is it really the guy running this company? So I was really skeptical at first. It only lasted for like 15 minutes. And then you just asked me basic stuff about like previous experience, what was your weakness and strength and stuff, and that's
Oh,
it.
no, I did
Oh wait,
not.
you
No, I
did. I
did not
remember
ask
it.
about weakness and
Like,
strength.
yeah,
Come
you
on.
did. Like I was
That's
preparing
embarrassing.
for.
Damn. I'm disappointed in myself. I would never do that now.
Yeah, but you've come a long way. Like interviews better
Yeah.
now.
So do you remember what it was like in the beginning, the job? It was probably very hands off. You probably had no idea what to do.
Yeah, honestly. And then Like it didn't help that I was alone.
Yeah.
Like I was your only virtual assistant that time, right? And then you. So I don't have anyone to ask. And then I wasn't really too comfortable asking you stuff because you might feel like, does Christelle know what she's doing? Why is she asking me this? So I didn't want to ask you anything. So I tried to do everything on my own. So it was hard because we didn't even have any like video meetings back then. And then I don't know how I pushed through. It's a matter of like exploring, exploring the websites, then exploring the tool you gave me. Of course, it's Keepa and Reseller. Yeah, I had to explore Keepa on my own as well.
Really? I
So I
didn't
was
teach you.
really like,
Damn.
yeah, you didn't teach me anything. I was all
Damn.
alone. It was lonely. I was also like watching YouTube videos because you didn't provide any training, like
Damn,
any.
Christelle, you're
It,
a killer. Well, I'm very impressed you were able to do that. I apologize for not being the
yeah,
leader that I am
like,
now.
go ahead, start today.
Yeah. I think I just had a misunderstanding of what like having experience meant, you know? Like if someone says they took a
Yeah,
course, I was like, oh, cool. That means you know how to source. Let's
yeah,
go.
you know how to do it. All right, start today and give
Yeah.
me 5 leads.
Is there anything from that time early on in like the first year that stuck with you? Like something I said or something I did that you stuck out to you?
It was long ago, but I think it was during my first month where I reached the goal of 5 approved leads. And then you told me that that's great. I did a great job, and then you moved me to like 10 more approved leads goal for the week. So I feel like I saw some improvements with myself because like why would we adjust the goals if I didn't do better than the
Hmm.
previous week? And then also, it was also the time when you hired our second VA. Like you told me that I didn't have to worry about losing my role. You kind of assured me that time because I was asking you about like, oh, what's gonna happen if there's two of us, and then you just told me like, there's nothing to worry about. We'll work through it. There's nothing wrong with having like two product sourcers in the company. So,
Out of the 3 years you've been with me, what has been your most accomplished feeling you've had?
oh, it's definitely when you promoted me to team captain. It's like you trusted me 100% already to promote me to this leadership role. It's like every time you're out, you're always expecting me to like be in charge,
Mhm.
oversee everyone. I just feel happy that you fully trust me with overseeing the team.
What did you do to celebrate your promotion?
I don't think I celebrated it, but I told my mom and my relatives about it, even though they have no idea what I'm doing with my job. I just told them that I'm promoted to a supervisor role. And then my mom was like, "What's your job again?" And no, never mind that, but I was promoted.
Well, that's good. What do you
Yeah.
think helped you grow into that role so that it felt natural and felt like something you could take on?
It's definitely you. Because we both were figuring things out on the way, and then you were guiding me through like the whole leadership role. You didn't just tell me to like, okay, you're team captain. Here's your role. Here's your task.
Mm,
I'm gonna leave everything to you now. No, it think it you didn't dump everything on me. Like when you promoted me last 2020, it was a slow process. Like we both had to figure it out slowly along the way. But I feel like you trusted me back then, but you were also still with me. Like you didn't just let me like handle the whole business by myself because it's huge.
what do you think was the hardest part about growing into the role as a team captain?
It's the fact that I'm the team captain and I feel like I need to know everything of myself
Okay. So
because
the
everyone's
expectations.
gonna, yeah, the expectations, yeah, the expectations. Because everyone's gonna like look up to me and ask me stuff like, Christelle, what do I do with this? How do I fix this? Like, Zap's not here. What would you
Mm,
do if Zap's not here? And I'd be like, yeah, what would Zap do? It's kind of like my mindset. Like, if I'm struggling with like fixing one thing, I would just think like, what would Zap do in this situation?
have you ever had a moment when maybe like it would probably be more recently, but have you had a moment where you realized you weren't a freelancer anymore?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I think it started when we started hiring more people in our team. Like it slowly changed throughout the years because after that we became more hands-on with the not just with the business but with the team as well.
Yeah.
Like we're starting to get involved. You were like asking us about like our week, how our performance went. Like I really
Hmm.
like when you ask us this the question like what could I do to make things better? It's like you're always concerned. Like you always know that there's always room for improvement and that you're always there to make those improvements as well.
Do you remember anything from that time when I transitioned from being hands off and like letting you guys handle things to when I actually started to take a more active role in leadership? Do you remember that?
I think it's when you promoted me
Hmm.
last 2023 because I started being more hands on with the team as well. Like I kept the communications going,
Yeah.
and every time you were out, I was there for the team. If ever they have questions or if ever they need you,
Sometimes I would pretend to go out so that you would have the opportunity to do that.
sometimes I feel like I don't know, no offense, but sometimes you don't act like a client at all. Like we were all like close as a team. But what I like about it is that I get to be myself with the team. Like
Mhm.
everyone's just easy to talk to, easy to hang out with. Like I don't feel like there's honestly I never felt like there was a competition with team.
I've talked about this one before on some of my posts, and it actually did kind of well. So I want to ask you, what did you think of our no stupid questions meeting?
I like that no stupid section but meeting that we did back then because I feel like even though we were already like a close team, like we share stuff, I feel like we created an even more safer space. Sometimes I'm hesitant to ask you something because, of course, as team captain, I feel like you're already expecting me to know everything that goes around the team and the business. So, like, if I ask you one simple thing, you're gonna think of it like, aren't you supposed to know this already? Like, you're doing this like, for years now. I always feel like that's what you're thinking, but then you're not. So I like that you had a creative safe space for us to ask anything, because that's a huge difference with when I started working in corporate before, because there's never really a safe space to talk about
Hmm.
anything in a corporate, like not even in HR. So I like that you know that I'm still prone to like making mistakes, a bit of mistakes. If Zach's making mistakes, then who am I to be a perfect like, team captain in this team? So
Hmm. What do you think are some other leadership like principles that we've had in the company that have benefited us well?
I think it's when you like, go over a bit of an extra mile for us. Like you'd always ask us for improvements. Like, do you need an improvement in our tools, like in
Hmm.
our Google Sheet? Like you
Hmm.
would always say that, what can what do you want me to do to help you with your role to make it easier? So I think that's one of the things that I like with your leadership because you always have something to offer. Like you don't just leave us here. You just leave us there.
So you mentioned when you got your promotion, your parents didn't really understand what your job was in the first place.
Yeah,
So
until now.
these days, how do you describe to your family and your friends what you do for work?
Sorry. I honestly just tell them that I work on Amazon. That's it. I don't like go through all the details that I'm sourcing stuff on Amazon. I'm analyzing market trends. I'm I'm studying graphs on FIFA, and I'll just say that oh, I'm working on Amazon, and then my mom's gonna go to my neighbors and she's gonna tell them, oh, you
Hmm.
know that my daughter is working on Amazon. And, like it's a huge company.
What's a time when you've had to make a big decision while I was asleep?
Oh my I think there's a lot. During when there was like three of us as product sourcers, two of them posted the same lead. And then you were out for that day. I don't know, you were sleeping or you were on a vacation. And they were they were both asking me like who gets to post the lead. I had to check. I did I don't want to just pick pick from one of them, that's gonna be unfair. So I have to like thoroughly check who posted the lead first. So I check the timestamps of who edited in the Google Sheet first, and
Really?
then yeah,
You went to the
I check that.
version history and
Yeah,
checked that?
like the last updated, and then I talked to both of them, of course. That and then like sometimes you're offline whenever I have questions to do I send out this batch even though there's only a few items that we can send out for a week, or do we wait? But I feel like I don't have to wait for you anymore to respond, so I just send some stuff out so that our process still is still going. Like
Hmm.
if I can make a decision now, then I'm gonna do it now. Yeah, I feel like I've been doing that most of the day. What I'm doing is what you're gonna do anyway.
What do you think clients from the US don't understand about hiring from the Philippines?
uh, Based from my experience before, I feel like they're expecting Filipino VAs to know everything on their own already. And then, yeah, I think they just kind of just like expecting you to know everything. And then they're just gonna throw everything at you, and then you handle all their business
Yeah.
by yourself. Like,
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah. True.
support, there's no team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had to use 3 emojis to describe your job here, what 3 would you pick?
Oh, the three that I always use, like the fire emoji, and then the one with stars, and then the one with the salute stuff. Like I use
Have-
fire when we have like a good day, and then I use the one with star. Like when you tell me that, oh you had a bunch of stuff purchased today, and I'm like, oh I beat last night's score, so I'm happy about it. So I feel like it's an achievement, so I have stars.
Nice.
And then I have the salute one whenever I'm agreeing with you, like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then I'm
Okay.
just extending the emoji.
That's wonderful. You had those ready.
Yeah, because I always use those. So
Do.
All right, so that was my team captain, Christelle. It's crazy to hear how close she was to not applying. Next, we'll hop in with Danielle, my admin. She's basically the glue that holds everything together.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I'm from the Philippines, specifically Parañaque, and I have been working at Upfront Distribution for a year and I think 3 months now.
Before you started working with Upfront Distribution, before we met, what were you doing? What was your job before?
So I was working as an Amazon customer service representative for 2 years before I applied. So I started with phone calls like for the longest time, and then I got transferred to chat support and like email support, which was better.
How did you find applying for us in the first place?
So I had an account with like online jobs, right? And then I was searching for Amazon virtual assistant. It was so easy to apply because like the questions that you have initially were really fun to answer. Yours were like, tell me about yourself. Like, what's your favorite book? What's your favorite hobby? And then like, okay, so this is just like answering a slam book. Like it was different, like from the start.
So right off the bat, you knew things were going to be different when you applied.
Yeah, because your questions were like about me instead of like what I can do immediately.
What do you remember about our first interview?
Actually, on that day, because I don't like interviews and like, trying to prove yourself to someone, like I don't like doing that. So I was really thinking about it on that day when the interview started. Like, you weren't exactly like what I expected you to be, honestly. No, really, like I don't know if it was based off of your picture, but like you weren't how like I thought you would be like speaking to you in person. I mean, because I've talked to like a lot of Americans, like being a customer service representative. I didn't think you'd be so nice, I guess. I'm not just saying it, like really. And like you were very easy to talk to. It didn't feel like an interview. Like this is more about you getting to know me, not exactly like an interview where you ask questions and stuff. Like you told me I didn't have to like sell anything to you, like prove a point or something like that.
What was your impression of me in the business?
I noticed at first, like you were like really hands-on with everything, like working every day and then like at different times of the day. So I'm like, you're really like into this, like this is really what you do, like that.
Yeah, that's a good observation, because I think a lot of people hire people to be like, all right, now I can do nothing. But I hired to try and get more done, not just to replace myself. Is there something that I said or something that I did early on that stuck with you, that left an impact on you?
But you have said a lot of things. It wasn't just like one thing, but the way that you kept telling me that like I was doing a good job. And actually, honestly, um, even now, whenever you say that's a great question, like I've never thought much about it like before, because like it didn't matter. But like every time you say it, I'm like, it's such a small thing, but you're like, oh, I did something right. I asked something right, like that. Like especially at first, I guess because when you're just starting out, and then oh, I'm asking the right questions, like it makes me feel like I'm doing something like good.
Yeah, that's interesting. You're because positive reinforcement is definitely a big theme of my leadership,
Yeah.
but I never said it out loud or thought of it that way that you just put it, where it's like in the beginning when there's not much to be doing right, the only thing I can reinforce is like the questions you're asking.
Yeah.
Because that's like all you have in the beginning. It's like, you did so good on that training, on going through that training, like, that there's no difference. But if I say, wow, there's a really good question about the training, then that's like actually something I could compliment.
And you also always told me to ask questions.
I
Like,
had to make that a rule, that 3 questions every meeting for onboarding.
oh, really? Now it is? It's a thing now?
Yeah, yeah. Was there ever a time where you were like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Like, oh, this is not a BPO job.
I think the difference was like you had something in Notion that was like, if you end the day thinking that you didn't do everything you could to help the team, then it wasn't like a successful day, something like that. Not exactly
Damn.
words, but
I
that's
don't know where that is, but I'm glad that's harsh, but I'm glad I have that.
yeah, you do. It's not the exact words, but it's something like that. And then like that's what I kept in mind, like especially like in the first few months, like I have to show up, like I have to do my best like every day. And like if I miss something or like am unable to do something, like everything I can to help the team or like contribute, then it wasn't a good day, like that. So like that's what I had before. This is different from like a BPO in the sense that you're like 1 in a million employees. But then here, with like you're working with a few people who are very important, who are very good at what they do. So like how can I be the best in what I do? Like that. That was like the pressure, like in the beginning. That's why you put more value to it, because if you miss something, the whole thing's affected. And like, okay, so what I'm doing is relevant and this is great. Like that.
What's your favorite story to tell people about your time working here?
Oh, that's another great question.
Now you're doing it to me.
See, it's becoming that. What is that?
And I thought, oh yeah, that was a good question. Yeah.
In general about this is like when you went to the Philippines, because that was pretty cool. I never thought that I'd actually get to meet you in person. So that was really cool. And then like we even played pickleball. So like that was, I think, my favorite story to tell. Yeah.
That is what. How do people react when you tell them about that?
They'd be like, because I'd be like, because they know about you, like right after, like, oh, I met him and he's great. Like not to like
He's a real person.
yeah, he's a real person, exactly. And like he's I think we mentioned this before, like what if he's not like he is online, like he is in person, like that. But you're exactly like you are, like how I thought you are. That was a good thing.
That's funny, because I remember telling my parents about that same thing. I was like, what if Danielle and Christelle are like annoying?
But like, how did you feel though? Like,
it didn't feel much different. It was kind of like,
yeah.
oh yeah, we have legs also.
Yeah.
It's like we talked about the same things, we interacted the same way. How has this job and working here changed how you see yourself?
I think maybe like I started to like to trust myself more. Like in the Philippines, I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but like when you don't graduate like college or something like that, there's something missing like in your life, like that. That thought has always been bugging me before, the like, how all your friends graduate and stuff like that. In general, here in the Philippines, if you don't graduate, they think you're always just going to end up in a BPO. But then when I started working here, like I felt like I could trust myself more, and like I started to believe in myself more, like, oh, I think I know myself, and like I know what I can do. And like working here, especially with you guys, you don't forget to tell us like when we do a great job and stuff like that. Yeah, I started to trust myself more.
For your friends and family, especially your family, how do you describe what you do for work?
Well, I say I work for an Amazon seller. It's the easiest way to put it. But then when they get into specifics of like, what do you do exactly? The first thing I always say is I review leads to see which ones we can purchase, and I do the purchasing as well.
How do people react to that?
I would say more of like curious, because like not everybody's familiar with, like, they hear about it, but like not everybody knows someone personally who works for an Amazon seller. I mean, like, okay, well, get seated. Let me tell you all about it. Um,
What's a time when you had to make a big, this maybe doesn't apply so much to you because we're usually on at the same time, but has there ever been a time where you had to make a big decision while I was asleep or
yeah,
away?
I think there was, like, off the top of my head, well, what I can think of is just like lead review and purchasing in general. And like, okay, it's up to me to decide, because these are going to go out of stock when Zach gets on, like that. And like what you would do, because you always say that, like, think like Zach. Well, what would Zach do like that? I don't know. I just be deciding for myself now, especially like at this point. I'd be confident to make decisions.
How is it different working? I mean, you've already kind of touched on this in the sense that you said that, like, the question is, how is working for an overseas company different than working in the Philippines? And you kind of already touched on it about that there's no pressure and it's like you're one of a million. But what do you think are some other differences that maybe people wouldn't realize about working for an overseas company?
Well, I can't say the time difference because we work at the same time. So like the company culture itself is what I would say. Like it's very, very, very different from working for someone in the Philippines. You're just very open, and like in general, like working together, you let us do our thing. You give us the space to work. Like not everything is spoon fed to you. That's actually another thing. Like you, especially me when I started, like you gave me like the training, and like it was up to me to learn and then to ask you questions about what I just read. You have to be using your brain, and you have to be curious about stuff. Like working with you is like, okay, I can do my own thing, like how I do it myself, and not exactly with a PowerPoint that's like everything's on there. So I think that's one of the main things.
What about in terms of the style of how people talk to each other?
At first, honestly, I didn't know exactly how to word things right. And I know Americans are like very straightforward, and like, like just ask what you're gonna ask and something like that.
Yeah.
And I think me and Christelle brought this up to you when you went to the Philippines. Like sometimes we don't know if you're like in a good mood or not. And like when we be talking in chat, and then I feel like you're mad about something, and like, okay, Zach's chats are like a bit short. Um, and then we hop on a meeting just like 30 minutes later, and I'm like, no, he's still really nice. Like, what is up with that? So like, yeah.
That's a good point. So maybe I do get not mad, but I don't think mad's a good word, but like I get frustrated maybe or annoyed with like a certain thing, but that doesn't change like our dynamic. It doesn't change how I feel about you. It's just that specific thing, you know?
And that's something that it took me a while to get to that point, to realize that you're like that. And I think we also mentioned this when you went here, that sometimes you're like, what happened with this? Or like, why didn't you do this? And then in the next minute, you're like, great job with this, wonderful job. So it's like, when you say like it's not personal, like okay, I shouldn't take this personal. It's like just
Yeah.
this one task that I didn't do right and I gotta correct it. And it doesn't mean that Zach's not gonna talk to me or like Zach's gonna, gonna be mean about it like that. So like it took me a while to get there too. So like that's where it comes back to company culture is what I keep mentioning.
Yeah.
I think it's just
Exactly.
you though, which is why I got really lucky. Because I'd be hearing honestly from my other virtual assistant friends that like they're like American bosses like that are like still how you would work like in a BPO. Like
I think that's the more a big theme in the stuff that I post now is about that, like they're more than that, that because you call them a VA, that's all they're ever going to be to you is a VA, like a data entry VA. But you also have to find the person that has the potential.
and speaking of that, like I just remembered when you said VA, you also have that notion where that's how I know it was different at first because you mentioned you don't like using the term virtual assistant. Just that small thing of you not wanting to use the term virtual assistant because you want to treat us as like equals and like co-workers, that made me feel like this is my business as much as it is yours. And I think you made a LinkedIn post about that, if I remember correctly. Yeah. I say like the work I do is relevant and you don't call me an assistant and like we're working together and like we're working for the same thing. And it's like
Exactly.
I'm not a VA. That's why when people ask me, are you a VA? Not exactly. I'd be something else.
Yeah. What is your perception of people who strictly hire from the Philippines in the US?
That's funny because I remember the TikTok comments that you have. I look at it as like Americans giving like Filipinos opportunity. I like especially work from home opportunities. Because honestly, I know some people who graduated from nursing, graduated from like engineering, and they still be looking for a virtual assistant job. So like, okay, there's something wrong there because you've got a degree, you've got like a great course. Like, why are you looking to work as a virtual assistant? So like that also made me feel like I'm exactly where I need to be, like that.
3 emojis to describe what it's like to work here.
Okay, the first one would be the nerd emoji.
Okay.
That's my favorite though, the nerd emoji. You have to be a nerd to work here. You have to be, because the nerd emoji looks like he's always thinking and he's always ready to answer questions and do stuff. And that's how you have to be when you're working here. The other two, the mind blown emoji. The things that happen here, like, don't stop, like every day. And you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, like what's gonna come up, like what problems are gonna happen or like what good things are gonna happen. So like every day it's like, oh that's great, or like, oh no, what did I do, like that. So it's like a constant like that. Either like the notepad, I would say I use that emoji a lot too. Like, yeah, because when you say something that I don't know, I'll be like, okay, I took down notes. And you have to take notes constantly in this work, because if you don't, you're gonna get left behind, and that's not good.
What are some closing things you want to share, things that you think people should know about if you were speaking to someone that was thinking about hiring from the Philippines where they already have a team and they suck? What do you think you would tell them?
If your team sucks right now, it's either you're not doing a great job leading them or you hired the wrong people. And I honestly think you just haven't found the right one if you think you don't have a great team. Or like what I think was great that you do in Talented is you don't just filter out applicants, you also filter out clients. Like you make sure that the VAs that you hire, like you get from Talented, are also paired with a client that fits them. If you're an Amazon seller looking to hire from the Philippines, there's always going to be that one applicant that matches your personality and matches your sense of humor and your work ethic, and you just have to find.
Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this behind the scenes, I'm sure you'll enjoy this one next. I'll see you soon.